Gotham, a crazy podcast about DC, with your hosts E-Rock and PD. When we speak up, get your geeks up, cause you know you about to get geeked up. So sit back, relax, and get comfy. Lose your mind like Solomon Grundy, and listen to a show that won't be forgotten, coming straight out of Gotham.
And hello, everybody in Gotham City. Welcome to another episode of Straight Outta Gotham, episode 68. We are a fandom pop culture podcast and a proud member of the Batman Podcast Network, hosted by Batman on Film. Make sure you check out all the other great shows on the network by heading on over to BatmanOnFilm.com. Click the drop-down tag and just check out Batman on Film Podcast, Rick Shoe Satellite Show, make Micah's Colonial, whatever Deathstroke calls his podcast, ELTD, and the Batman Book Club. There's a bunch of other stuff there, so make sure you check out all that stuff. There's a bunch of great shows on the network. I'm your co-host from the other side of the Hudson River. I'm a senior contributor to Batman on Film. I'm Peter R. Vera, and today we're recording on March 13th, 2022. And as always, I have a great show for you today. But before we get into the good stuff, I would like to remind you, all of our faithful listeners, if you take the time to rate and review our show on Apple Podcasts, and we read your review on air, you win a Straight Outta Gotham prize pack. So you got to be in it to win it. Make sure you write those reviews like your Rotten Tomatoes. Now, let me introduce you to my partner in crime, the man who won Long Pond's 1986 Crocodile Wrestling Championship, our very own Killer Croc, and a fellow Batman on Film contributor. Ladies and gentlemen, the champion of Long Island, Eric Holzman.
Oh, man, that 10-year-old division was tough. I gotta tell you that. And luckily they were like baby crocs, so I didn't have
to you don't fight like adult crocodiles. You're fighting like baby crocs.
Of course, especially at that age.
Well, at your age, you were very advanced. I mean, you're going on like your 57th championship by now.
So yeah, well now, yeah. But it's been, it's rough. It's a rough thing to do, and crocodiles are a little bit more aggressive than alligators. I don't know if you knew that, but they are. Mm-hmm. So it was fun when I moved to Florida, and I would tell this story, and they would want me to go to Alligator Alley very quickly and say, "Okay, we want to see you test your muscle here."
Okay.
But I have to say, in the 4 years I lived in Florida, I never once saw an alligator in Alligator Alley.
They were scared of you. They knew you were there.
That has to be.
Don't they have like a good? I could be wrong on this, but don't alligators have like a good sense of smell or something like that? Maybe you have like a scent.
They do, and what they don't, since their eyes are positioned on the side, they don't see as well. Mm-hmm. That's why they say like if you're getting chased by one, to run in a ragged direction, because they can't see you that if you do that.
Interesting. Okay.
It was their way. So yeah, so these are just little tidbits, guys. I'm not Steve Irwin or anything, or his kids.
You're not dead.
Well, yeah, that's a good point. I am not dead, so that's a good point.
We've eaten alligator together.
Yes, we have. When we were doing for the Joker show, when we were looking for a place to go in Manhattan, we stopped at that English bar. Mm-hmm. And they had alligator, and we we had that, and I believe we had escargot too. Did we? Did we have snails?
That was at a different place, but yes, we did. Yeah. We've had alligator and escargot, and we were like, these might be too bougie for our crowd. It's good enough for Rick Shoe, but it's we're more of a pizza and beer crowd, as Tommy Lee Jones would say.
So speaking of Rick Shoe, we got to spend time with Rick last week at the Batman on Film watch party in Dallas, which was a fantastic time. It's always fun.
I had the best time with Rick Shoe. I want you to know that.
Well, yeah, Rick. I mean, it was fun to see Rick. We both finally got to meet Garrett and Ryan Lauer, which was fun. Since we talk to them every day, it was cool to finally get to sit down with them and have some beers and talk and break bread and eat.
Gumbo.
Yes, Bill, thank you so much, man. I said this in the group, but I really mean it. You did not have to do all that stuff you did. You went above and beyond. It was awesome.
Staff party was a good time.
Yes, we had a really good time that night. The food, the gumbo, finally, I got to eat it, and it was fantastic. I don't think anyone enjoyed it as much as your brother, though, Pete. I think Mikey.
Mikey really liked the gumbo. I did. I've never had I had a hard time figuring out what I liked more, actually. The chicken and sausage or the seafood, but that boudin sausage was pretty impressive.
Yeah, man, you killed that stuff.
I love sausage, but I've never had sausage taste like that. Not with like dirty rice, and it was so unique. I was really fascinated by it, and I actually found out that the Louisiana Crawfish Company sells boudin sausage. So for the crawfish party this year, you can bet we're gonna have some of that in the smoker.
And how was you stayed an extra day, so you got to go back to Bill's and have jambalaya. How was the jambalaya?
It was delicious.
All right.
It was good. He's a good cook.
Yeah,
I enjoy the authentic Cajun cooking. It was probably my first like real I say my first authentic jambalaya that I had. Like I've had jambalaya before, but like I live in New Jersey. Like, you know, I'll claim we have the best pizza in the world. I can't claim we have the best jambalaya.
it's funny because I usually host a Mardi Gras celebration for my family, and I'll make jambalaya. So I was upset I didn't stay because I would have loved to see Bill's to see how I could better mine, because I'm sure it was better than mine. But yeah, it was just weird.
I tried to get you all to stay on Monday. No one wanted to stay.
You did, but
at least I got you all to stay in the same hotel. We turned it into a BOF frat house.
Yes, the hotel was great except for the bar, because on the first 2 nights it closed at like 10 o'clock, and we were like, "What the hell is this? Like, where are we gonna?"
But what's great about Texas is you can buy beer anywhere.
That's a good point as well. Yeah,
so we were buying beer at gas stations. Like that's unheard of in the tri-state area up here in the Northeast. So
on the first night, the Thursday night, Pete after he went to the Mavericks game and we came back, the bar was closed, so he got beer. We all went back to his room and we were all drinking there. It was fun. It did feel like that part definitely felt like a frat house. We were just hanging out in someone's room drinking, and it was fun. So again, we had an awesome time. Bill, thank you once again for hosting that great event. It was awesome. I want to give a shout out to Chris Burke, Trey Jackson, who are here on guest month, who are some of our guests. We finally got to meet them as well. Awesome people.
It was great to hear Burke's accent in person.
Right? Yeah, that was awesome.
I can't wait to go to Wisconsin. I got to hang out with that guy. Just eat cheese curds and listen to him talk all day.
So it's awesome to meet them. Matt Sharif, who's a fan of the show.
He was there. He's great.
Awesome to meet him and his cousin.
The Ballard brothers were there.
The Ballard brothers
running the Schumacher cut. They were there. They're great dudes.
Yes, that was awesome. James was awesome too. I know he's a longtime BOF fan. It was awesome to meet him. Javi, getting to actually meet Javi and hang out with Javi. Yeah. Was awesome. And Javi picking the killer brunch spot on last Sunday, man. That place good. Was fantastic.
Yes, it was.
So that cinnamon bun, I still have like dreams about that thing. That thing was it was so good.
It was huge.
Yes, it was quite a big cinnamon bun. But we have a little surprise. We're gonna kind of extend guest month at least by a week, and have a friend who we have talked about. We've name dropped him many times on this show. And
not many people know his voice, which is actually very interesting. A lot of people, when I said we're going to have this person on, they're like, I've never heard him speak. And I tell people, and I told this to Lauer last night, I said, well, if you want any idea, if you want to go into it, like kind of warm up, like just watch any Martin Brodeur interview. And they have very similar voices and accents. So I'm sure that gives it away for some people, but we're going north of the border for this one.
We are. This is our second Canadian. We had Brian Demasso on, right? So now we're having...
He's from Toronto, I believe, the Ontario area.
So now we're having someone from Montreal, a great friend of ours, great friend
Viva
of the
Los
show.
Expos.
Yes. Of course, we'll talk about Reno. He's like Madonna. You only say his name, his first name.
He's Cher.
He's Cher. Yeah, Madonna. He doesn't have a last name. So Reno, what's going on, brother?
Greetings, maniacs. Hello everyone. I'm the first ESL guest on Straight Outta Gotham, so that should be interesting.
And he's also the only person in Montreal who didn't want the Canadians to win the cup last time they played.
Yes. I couldn't care less.
To say Reno thinks outside the box.
That's the crazy thing. He's one of the only Canadians I know who doesn't care about hockey. He doesn't care. It's their national path, and he doesn't care. But he does care about Batman, as we know. And
Jared Leto's Joker.
Yes, he loves Jared Leto's Joker.
That's sarcasm.
He didn't answer.
I think my opinion on Jared Leto has been very well documented on this show. At this point, I feel like
we've said it
without you even being on.
Yes,
it's gonna be on my tombstone someday.
Oh God!
So this show, guys, we're gonna pretty much focus on the Batman. We have a couple other topics we might get through, but we're gonna focus on the Batman. And because of the style of movie that's done, Reno is a perfect guest. He loves this kind of genre, the noir. what's it called? Detective style story that Reeves
Serial
told.
killers, mass murderers.
Right,
You know,
like
he's a crazy dude.
he's very much into that part. So when we were talking about having someone on for guest month, I was like, he said, well, why about after the Batman? I was like, yeah, that's fine. We could do it after. So thank you, man, for coming on. We'll have a good time. You know how the show rolls, so I won't have to stop or prompt you or anything. This will be a really, really fun hour and 10, depending on how long we go. So very quickly, Pete, I'll let you run with your feelings on just your overall feelings, of course, on the Batman. We haven't spoken about this publicly yet. We spoke obviously to each other. We saw the movie. That was your first viewing when you
as
saw
of right
it
now. It's actually my only viewing. I'm going to see it. I'm going after the show to see it again the second time, so I'm very excited.
All right. So from your first viewing, because I've seen it twice, I've only seen it twice. So from your first viewing, go ahead and tell everyone what you thought.
To be honest, I loved it from start to finish. It's been 10 years since we got a solo Batman movie. That's really my wheelhouse, and I couldn't have been happier, especially with how like the last 5 to 7 years have gone for just not specifically Batman on film, but the character Batman on film. You know, like
Yes.
It's been a rough road to finally get on track with Batman doing Batman things strictly in Gotham City. And to be honest, this isn't like people want to call this a solo Batman movie. This is a team up movie. This is a buddy cop movie. This is Batman and Gordon the whole way through. And it's very unique because it's 95% Batman, 5% Bruce Wayne. Yeah. Colin Farrell was magical as Oswald. I mean, I haven't enjoyed an overweight man in the Mafia that much since Tony Soprano. John Turturro was probably the actor who stole the show for me. I thought every time he was on screen, I just wanted more. He was magical, especially the end with him and Selena. I thought that was just a fantastic fight. There's nothing I don't like about this movie at all. I'm so happy. The car's great. The bike was great. It's wonderful. It just is. Like, I'm so happy with this. And, it seems like Warner Brothers is very pleased and we're going to get more from this world. It seems like it'll be self-contained, so it won't have any, anything else interfering with it. And I'm totally fine with that because we'll get more fantastical elements from the Keaton Batman when he comes back. And, this is as realistic as they tried to do. This is probably the most comic booky Batman's ever been. So it's really the best of both worlds, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's definitely a very graphic novel. Like you could see this as a graphic novel, right? Like that's the kind of lane I feel like this movie was done in. But yeah, all the influences that Reeves mentioned before that we've talked about repeatedly on the show, they're all present in this movie. So you're right, man. I spoke a little about it on Josh Legurn's show earlier in the week. So if you guys saw that, you kind of got my feelings. I'll talk about.
I keep tabs on you.
I'll talk about it a little bit more, but I really want to hear Reno's feelings. I know we've talked about it already, but I want him to tell everyone. Reno, what'd you think of the Batman?
I adore this movie. I went in really expecting to be up my alley because of the more detective focus angle. As you've mentioned before, I'm very much into true crime, serial killers, stuff like that. Not that I'm not a fan of what they do, but like true crime, I'm a true crime buff. I think nowadays it's not that uncommon for people to be into that stuff. I've studied criminology, so everything that I've heard from Matt Reeves regarding the angle that he wanted to tackle for that movie really spoke to me. So I kind of knew that I would like it. But I try not to overhype myself too much. And when I saw the movie, like, I was floored by how much I loved it. Look, The Dark Knight is my favorite movie of all time, but I feel like The Batman is now a very strong contender to that title. They're on par as far as I'm concerned. Everything, the performances, there's not a single false note as far as I'm concerned. The aesthetics, everything. It feels very comic booky. I was surprised by the amount of Batman lore that we got in that film. That was completely straight out of the comics. So I was very pleased.
Straight out of Gotham?
Yeah. Straight out of Gotham, the TV show, which you adore. Um,
Oh, jeez.
it took you a few minutes, right? uh, so yeah, I've seen it 4 times by now. I'm planning on seeing a fifth time, probably Tuesday or Wednesday. Um, I just can't get enough of that movie, man. Everything about it really spoke to me. I like that all of the characters are not really black or white. They are treated like people, like real people.
Mhm.
So it's not as much as good versus evil. There are a lot of nuances in that movie. And yeah, that's pretty much what I'm into.
Reno, you were very, let's say, hesitant about the score going in.
Absolutely.
Now that you've seen the film and you see the score in the movie, how do you feel about the score now?
I love the score. Um, I would
Okay, so
say
you've completely changed.
yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I would say it's probably my favorite work from Giacchino, which is saying something because as you've mentioned, when they release the the singles, the Batman one I really didn't like. I was a fan of the portion we had been teased with in the trailers and the teaser from Fandom 2020, but for some reason, like the more emotional part in the middle, it just kind of felt like something straight out of Lord of the Rings or maybe like a emo drama. It didn't really. Didn't really feel like Batman to me, but looking back, I feel like those singles, like that portion wasn't really the theme. It was incidental music that it kind of jammed in between. Like it's promotional material as far as I'm concerned. When I look at the actual score itself, I've listened to it on loop since I really get the the detective tone, which I was sold on from the teasers. And that was my main concern. As you've said, after listening to the first two single, I was really worried about that. The Catwoman single I've enjoyed. It felt very noir, very seductive, femme fatale. It had a certain element of danger to it. Um, but yeah, once that I've listened to the score in context, I fell in love with it.
Yeah, I've been listening to it a lot myself, just having it on in the background around the house and stuff. And I've really grown to really appreciate this score. And it just, the more I listen to it, the more I enjoy it. I can't really rank it amongst other scores. Just it's so new. It's like ranking the movie. I'm having a hard. I don't know where this movie falls for me, just because it's so brand new and it's, we're going. It's hard for me to rank just amongst like movies that I've been watching for 20 years, right? It's going to take some time before I can get either of those in there in a solid. Because as you know, Reno knows, I love the Goldenthal score. Like I think that's actually pretty fun and energetic, and I really appreciate that what they were doing. And Elfman is in a class of his own, and Zimmer, of course, is a A-lister. But it's going to be really tough to rank these. But I loved it. I thought it was great. It really fit in tone with the movie, and it really was just an emotional force with the film. Just like watching that movie and hearing that music, like they just go hand in hand, and it's like, wow, this fits so perfectly together.
Yeah, I told everyone that I only listened to the Batman theme when the single was dropping. I didn't listen to the other songs because I just wanted to hear them in the movie, and it works in the film so much better than just listening to it for me. And now that you have those visuals in your head,
you can see the scenes as you listen to it. Yeah,
you can see it, so it makes a lot more sense. I think the music for the story being told is perfect. I really enjoyed that part of it.
It's so creepy and eerie. It's very horror film, right? It fits in tone because like this Riddler is so unhinged. He's so scary. Like when he first pops up on screen, like you kind of get it's kind of like a jump scare, when he's in the mayor's room. And then when he kills him, he makes like these weird noises. Like he's so unhinged, like that first kill when he goes down, he's like, and you're like, oh wow, this is intense. So like, and I didn't mention the Riddler when I talked about the movie early on, and I know he caught a lot of heat because he wears a different mask these days, and he doesn't have a pink flat top. But I thought Darrow crushed it, man. Like,
or a bright green suit with.
Yeah, I mean he was disturbed in that Arkham scene, right, when he's captured, and like him and Batman are talking, and he looks evil and sadistic in his YouTube videos, but sometimes you could tell he's just a guy who wants essentially friends. Right.
Yes.
That's kind of like the whole movie. He's latched onto he's almost a zaddy. Like he's latched onto these crazy, weird people on the internet and YouTube. And then all of a sudden he thinks Batman's his friend and he's not. And then when that doesn't come to fruition, he goes crazy and loses it altogether. So it's very interesting what Reeves and Dano came up with. And I'm fascinated by this Riddler.
Yeah. I mean, he's one of the very many great performances that we've gotten in this movie. But you're right. This was probably the farthest reach, I think, of any of the characters that people weren't used to because of the look and because of the way they were going. And I mean, Dano just plays these kinds of roles so well that when he was cast, I'm like, you kind of knew they were going a different direction. I would say, like, you don't cast Paul Dano to be Jim Carrey's Riddler, right? You cast him to be a specific type of character.
I wasn't familiar with him, but this is like his thing. Like he plays like these crazy unhinged characters.
Did you ever see, if you get a chance, watch Prisoners?
Okay.
Yes.
He was very good in Prisoners. Different kind of film, but it's a good performance by him. So Reno, outside of the Riddler, who are your you could talk about him too, but what was your favorite performance from the movie?
It's kind of hard to pick. It would be between Pattinson and Kravitz. Because I think everyone really gave a spectacular performance. So as I've said earlier, there's no false note. To pick a favorite, it's Pattinson or Kravitz, though Colin Farrell wouldn't be far behind. Every time he's on screen, he steals the show. There's not a lot of him though, so I would be tempted to say that might be why he's not really my favorite performance of the film, though it only left me wanting more of Colin Farrell's Penguin. So, yeah. But Kravitz, man, I really have to say, I think we've never had a bad Catwoman actress. I think that's pretty fair.
Actress, but then that horrible movie with great actress, bad movie.
Yes, that one I do not count when I say we've never had a bad Catwoman. To be honest, because to me it feels like a completely different character, and it's not even set in Gotham, so it's very loosely connected. So I'm thinking about the three actresses from the 66 version. I'm thinking about Michelle Pfeiffer, Han Hathaway, even the Cameron Bicondova, I think her name is, the lady who played Catwoman.
Yeah, she was one
Gotham.
of the better things about Gotham.
Yeah. Well, I think she was one of the very few performances worth watching. And now Kravitz, and I have to say, like, until last week, my favorite was still Julie Newmar, and Kravitz really. She stole the crown. To be fair, though, she's given a little bit more to do than some previous Catwomen we've had. There are more nuances to her, more depth. So she had more to work with. But really, that's another one. I know we're not getting a show based on Catwoman. There were rumors about it about a year ago or two. I would love it if maybe there would be a change of heart, a change of plan, and they would give her either a show or a movie, because I definitely want to see more.
I think that's a possibility. I mean, with the way the movie ended, I can't imagine anyone saying no to that show at this point. It's like you said, like, we know Oswald's going to get a spinoff, and like, you want more of that.
Absolutely.
So, and you're going to get that, which is great. So, like, I can't, and with the way that movie ended, I was like, wow, like, I was like, yeah, I want that Catwoman show now, I mean, I'm cool if I don't get it, but I think
when the movie ended, we all just wanted more of whatever we could get.
Yeah.
Like, you're just like, okay, how else could we do that? And we do know that Reeves is building a Batman universe. So who knows what's going to come from it? But I agree with Reno with standout performances. For me, it was Colin Farrell. I do agree with him that he's not in the movie a ton, but when he is in the movie, every scene is memorable. I agree
with you 100%.
Every single one of his scenes, you remember. He's the comic relief in the film, so The film is so heavy that it's nice to have this guy come in and joke around a little bit, even though you do have, and let's quickly go to you brought up the buddy cop moment, the buddy cop story thing. And there's a lot of that. And there's humor between Batman and Gordon.
Yeah. No guns. Hey buddy, that's your thing. Like,
right. With the thumb
great.
drive, and then it's an actual thumb. Like it was subtly done, but it was very well placed in the film, and it was just at the right times. I felt too, like when things might be getting a little too much, they throw in a thing like, "Oh, these are still people."
Even
right?
something like in that intense interrogation room scene where like Batman's picking out the crooked cops in the police station, and him and Gordon, which is one of the most fascinating scenes in the movie. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, "What is going on? What are they doing?" They're talking, and he's like, Gordon's like, "You're gonna punch me in the face." I'm like, what is going on right now? And then it leads up into that great chase through the GCPD up to the wings, the squirrel suit scene. So you're just like, there's so many interesting moments between Batman and Gordon, even when Selina captures what's his name, and Batman and Gordon meet up and they're like, you didn't send the signal? Oh, I thought it was you. Like, oh wow, okay, that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of surprises in there. I wanted to know what you guys thought of this. I think this may be, as one film, the greatest cinematic like arc for one movie of Batman ever. Like the trilogy is as a whole is 3 movies, and they all rely on each other so much. But this one movie going from vengeance, I'm vengeance, when he's beating up the guys in the train station to the basically the person he saves being completely afraid of him, asking him not to hurt him, to the end where that girl on the gurney grabs his bicep because he's the only person she trusts, right? Like that, there is such a turn between what he is in the beginning of the movie to what he has become now. And even though he didn't necessarily save the city, he kind of saved the day at some point. It's really interesting to me how that jump from the beginning of the movie to the end.
Yeah, Reno, go ahead. You can answer.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think The Batman is a full meal. Let's say we wouldn't be getting any sequels nor any spin-off. I would still be okay with that movie because it tells a complete story.
I agree.
It's a very rare thing these days because every movie is built with a franchise in mind. Or, well, not every movie, but most of them. It's so rare that we get one-offs. Like we had one with Joker, but with Batman, like
hopefully.
Yeah, no, I don't want a sequel. Like I love that movie, but I do not want a sequel to Joker. But yeah, just getting a full meal with Batman like that, I thought was really interesting. The story arc, as you've mentioned, I think it's the strongest we've had so far. It's the one that felt the most Batman in every way, like he's a lot on screen, but also like the themes and everything. Yeah. If I compare it with the Dark Knight trilogy, like it's a very different type of story, but because Batman Begins can totally stand on its own. The Dark Knight as well. I do feel that The Dark Knight Rises requires viewing from the previous 2 films, or at least Batman Begins.
Yeah.
But with the Batman, it tells a complete story. It's definitely the best story arc we've had so far. No question there.
When you talk about like the comic book elements, like there's just so many, like the lenses, that he uses, the contact lenses to spy and to like review his missions. Like that's Nolan would never do that. Like Nolan was so grounded. He wouldn't attempt anything like that. And it's fascinating. And then you could tell the love that Reeves has for 66 when Batman's running down the wall. Like that's straight out of the TV show.
And the bust, the Shakespeare bust.
That's in there as well.
Yeah.
The phone, and again, the design of the cowl, the phone, you could tell Reeves is such a fan of Batman. He may be the biggest Batman fan to ever direct Batman in a movie. And I think that's the proof's in the pudding there. And I appreciate that.
Yeah, I mean, and he gave, like I said, this is the first movie, like we've all said, this is the first movie where Batman is front and center almost the entire film. He's
And
almost
that's like any comic book. Like you read
Yeah.
a comic book,
Yeah.
you don't get a whole lot of Bruce Wayne really.
No.
It's you're getting Batman, and that's what we all want. We want to see a lot of Batman, and it's funny because this movie is almost the complete opposite of Dark Knight Rises. You know, Rises is a movie that is basically all about Bruce Wayne, and Batman comes in at the end. He's a little bit in the beginning, but it's mostly all Bruce Wayne. And the Batman, and it's an end, right? But the Batman is a beginning, and it's all Batman.
Yeah.
So the two movies are kind of the total opposite of each other, and that's what's great about this character is you could do so much about him. You know, you can do a movie basically entirely about Bruce Wayne, or you can do a movie entirely about Batman.
Yeah.
The Batman
Yeah.
could
So
also be titled Bruce Wayne Begins in some ways.
Yeah, he's finding
Yeah.
himself in all aspects. You know, like I think that scene with him and Alfred where he's like, I don't care what happens to me. You could tell and the two scenes where he's dealing with Tweedledee and Tweedledum at the door, you know who I am. There's no difference in this movie between Batman and Bruce Wayne. He hasn't figured that out yet.
right.
And that's very interesting because, like, if you want to compare it to like kind of like a Begins origin story, by the time Bruce gets on that plane, apart from the mud, he's basically, he's got Bruce Wayne and Batman figured out. You know, like he once he's doing his push-ups, he figures out he's got to create a different Playboy persona. But in the Batman, he doesn't know what to do right now. He's all in Batman mode.
Yeah, I mean, he does. He like what the Riddler says with his being his mask, right? Like that's his mask. Like that's he's just not. He's not comfortable as Bruce Wayne. He's comfortable when he's Batman, and you can see that in the movie because even the scenes we get him as Bruce Wayne, like few seconds later, he's Batman already.
Yeah.
So it's very much that kind of a story. And like Reno said, Bruce Wayne Begins. Like by the end, you can kind of see, okay, now we're probably going to move into the more Playboy type of role that we know Bruce Wayne is throughout his history. But yeah, I mean, this film, like you both said, could be its very own thing. If we never got a sequel, it'd be fine. It's a complete Batman movie. We have a complete arc for, like you said.
Can you imagine the outrage on Twitter? I mean, people freaked out about release dates being shifted. Can you imagine if the Batman 2 didn't get made?
Yeah, man.
Let's get the hashtag trending.
Yeah.
Well, we did kind of get confirmation, right, from the little thing that happened on Friday that Cypher, right? Didn't it say that the sequel's coming?
I believe, but I believe BOF has also been reported that the Batman 2 has been in the works, and I think Reeves has said it at some point, like he's got ideas. So, like, I mean, and look, the movie's a success, so we're not going to get a spin-off TV show and not a sequel,
right? So
it all goes hand in hand.
So as of now, what's the latest box office number for it so far? Just to throw that out there real quick, I believe. Someone sent it this morning, and I'm sorry.
I have no idea. I don't know it off the top
I believe it's a lot of money.
Yeah,
that's probably the best way to put it. Yes,
it's a success. I believe that's what it is.
Yes,
I think it only got like the drop isn't that significant. It's like the fourth best opening for a DC movie all time.
Its domestic opening is 238.5 in the 2 weekends that it's been open. So 238.5 million. Domestically for the first 2 weeks that it's been out, which is very, very good. It only had a 50% drop, I think, which is fantastic from opening to the other. So clearly people do care about the Batman. So you
heard him say it. You heard him say it. He finally admitted it. There we go, Lois. Well done. I hope Woodburn's listening.
But let's focus a little bit more on a couple of the things from the film. So a big deal was made when it was first released of the car. And how it was not very not, I guess, traditional. There's been Batmobiles that have looked like this car before. Let's not be, but it's not more of the more fantastical ones, I guess, that people are used to.
Yeah, it doesn't have neon blue and it doesn't have wings. I get it.
It doesn't have that sleek looking style. It
looks sleek to me.
So, it's a muscle car. This version is basically a muscle car. It could be Vin Diesel's car from Fast and the Furious.
Vin Diesel cannot drive. Vin Diesel can't handle it. I don't care how big his biceps are. He can't drive this car.
It could. So let's just talk about it because the car is another character in this movie, right? Like we could just put him in there. So I'll turn to Reno first. Reno, I don't know if we have to discuss your feelings about the car. So tell us about the evolution and then what you saw in the movie and what you think about this Batmobile.
When I first saw the pictures of the car, it didn't do anything to me, to be honest. I wasn't outraged like some people were. I'm not a car person, just a disclaimer. So, I mean, I like the Batmobiles. The 66 is probably my favorite we've had. And then the Anton first, but that one, it ranks up there, really. When I saw it in context, I thought it was fantastic. It's intimidating as hell. The sound it makes, yeah, I mean, I've got no complaint about the car. I get some people would like it to be a little bit more toyetic, so to speak. But I had no problem. Just let's see how it works on screen, and I thought they did a really good job with it. And I have the kind of same opinion with the Bat Cycle.
Mm-hmm. All right,
I think this car's toyetic as all hell. I got 5 different versions of it in my house. Like, I'm
so
you know what I mean,
so
right? They like these little gadgets.
I know. I got you.
So let's talk about the evolution of the car, because the first time we see it, it's not fully completed, right? Like he's working on it. We see parts of it outside. It's kind of sitting there in the Bat Cave or the Bat, whatever that is. If it's not really a cave yet, I don't know.
Wayne terminal.
The Wayne terminal. It's kind of just sitting there, and then we don't get it until we actually see it. And
it is a force.
The comparison to Christine is perfect because that's exactly what I thought of when I saw it. When you see the movie Christine with the car, when you see the Batwheel first, you just hear it revving, and then he's just like total intimidation mode. And it's funny, when I was watching that, I thought of the scene in The Dark Knight where it says intimidate before the car explodes. And you see that? Like, I started with all these other Batman references in my head when that part was happening. And then, of course, you get the fire coming out the back. I thought of course, the 66 show where you get that coming out
turbines,
the
the speed,
the turbines, right. Everything kind of just tied into this one car at that point for me. And I was iffy on the car too, because I kind of like the fantastical elements a little more. But in this world, in this film, it is perfect. That chase scene is fantastic.
Yeah,
it's such a good call, which just makes me feel more confident that this guy knows exactly what he's doing. So Pete, your feelings on the car? I know you were fine with it from the beginning, but in the movie itself,
to be honest, I was more like, I remember that first picture of the Tumbler. It was that back shot and you just see the back tires that was on BOF. I remember the first time I saw that, I had more of a jarring reaction. I was like, whoa, this is monster truck tires on the Batwheel. What is Nolan doing? But when I first saw this, I was like, this is like straight up Neil Adams inspired to me, that 1970s car. And I love muscle cars. So I was all about it. And, like I'm looking at, I got the Jaded Toys right now, and it's got the back, it's got a little wing action. Again, it's got the great turbine engine in the back. When we first see it, that engine revs up, and the grill kind of lights up, and it looks like a monster. It looks ferocious and intense. And then when it flies through the flames, like to knock out Ozzy, I was like, wow, this is great. I hope the car didn't get flooded out. I don't know where he parked that thing, because I know Gotham City's underwater right now. So I hope it makes its return. But I got no issues with the car. I liked what Reeves was doing. If I had one complaint, is you got to have a passenger seat if you got to have a Robin, right? It looks just like a beast. It functions great. I loved every moment I saw it on screen. My favorite car, it's going to be very hard for anyone to dethrone Anton first Batmobile.
Right.
It just will be. But this is going to be pretty high up there on the rankings. I think it might end up being like a 2 or a 3 for me.
Yeah, I definitely picked firsts, and then the 66 one, just because for nostalgia reasons. That's
I get it, and I use the 66 car a lot in reference to this, because like, if you can accept the 66 car as a Batmobile, there's no reason not to accept this as a Batmobile. Because I'm looking at the McFarlane Toys Batmobile, it's like, what makes that 66 car a Batmobile? Is it the bubble windshield? Is it the Bat logo on the doors?
Right.
Is it the siren on top? Like, you tell me why that's acceptable as a Batmobile. and this one isn't. And I'm talking to you, Justin Kowalski, because you're the one who had the problem with the car to begin with. So like, I don't get it. Like, it looks like a Batmobile to me. It kicks ass. The engine's loud. It goes 450 miles per hour, and it's got flames coming out the ass. It's a Batmobile. Like, I'm sorry, it is. And it's anyone who's complaining about the aesthetic of this movie is insane to me because it all works.
You're right. Like in everything in context in this film that I had issues with, whether it be the music or the car, in the film, it just worked perfectly. It's just a perfect fit for what we saw and what Reeves gave us. Again, like Reno brought up the Bat Cycle. I didn't even realize earlier in the film that it had the front. Did it have it the whole movie? Because it did, right? I didn't realize earlier.
Well, no, he only gets it at the end of the movie.
Okay.
Yeah.
He has like a regular motorcycle.
Right, when he's Bruce.
When he's, I believe they call it the Drifter.
Okay.
When he's in like year one face paint and hood mode.
So yeah, so it's weird that in a lot of the other films we get more Batmobile. In this one we get one specific chase scene, and it's just fantastic. Like it's such a good.
I feel like you get one good Batmobile scene in every Batman movie, though.
Yeah, but I feel like it's more. There's also times where he's just using it to get around. In this movie, it was strictly the bike. Whatever he was getting around, he was using the bike. So Pete, you brought up earlier the escape from the GCPD when he punches Gordon, obviously, and then they're all chasing after him like, oh, I gotta get him, and then he uses the first time we see him use the
wingsuit.
I guess it's the grapple gun. I don't know.
The taxi driver grapple gun.
Yeah. Now the cool thing about that was we finally know what those things are around his wrist, right? Those are just.
That's what I assumed. I assumed that it like the grapple gun pops out of his sleeve, taxi driver style.
Yeah.
And those like spikes are essentially the grapnel
right,
or the hook, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
I don't know what the technical term is. But that's what I figured. Everyone was trying to figure out what these things were. And then if you look at the Funko Pop, he's posed and they're coming out of his wrists. So you're like, oh, there's no grapple gun there. So it was, it's not totally, I'm more confused about how the wingsuit works than anything else in the movie. That's like the one I was like, how did he do that? How's that thing like fold everywhere?
Right. In a movie that's pretty grounded, that's the one scene where I'm like, okay, that's a very big comic book moment right there when the parachute gets caught on the bridge, he kind of goes flipping fall, and then he gets up and he's hurt, but he's not like, that would probably kill somebody for real.
Well, it's a good thing he's wearing armor.
Right? So like that would probably kill people for real.
I think the most comic book thing for me has to be those contact lenses.
Yeah.
Does technology like that even exist? I have no idea.
No.
It's that's the most out of this world thing I think in the movie.
It's something that you'd see in a James Bond film. More than a Batman movie.
Yes, it is. Yeah. It's very Q.
Yeah.
So Reno, you're of the three of us, you're definitely the biggest cinephile, I will say. You know more about movies than anyone else I know. So of all the references that Reeves mentioned before the film, yes. Which one of those movies, whether it be Chinatown or Clued or I'm forgetting the other one he mentioned.
Wasn't one like The Third Man or something like that?
Which of those movies did you think was represented the most in this one, in the Batman?
It's a pretty good question. I would be tempted to say both Seven and Clute.
Okay.
There were some moments that I thought about movies which Reeves didn't mention. The first scene with the Riddler when he kills the mayor, like it felt like something out of an Italian giallo from the 70s. There's a lot of stuff in that film that reminded me of 70s cinema, not just American, as I've said, like Italy as well. I thought about Dirty Harry, the opening shot. I know some people have compared it to The Conversation, but I was more reminded of that scene with the crosshair when the Scorpio killer is targeting the woman in the pool.
Mm-hmm.
I caught some of the references to some novels which he mentioned were a source of inspiration. I think he brought up Blood on the Moon by James Ellroy. Obviously Zodiac by Robert Graysmith. which, yeah, the book is definitely more an influence than the Fincher movie. Both the Fincher movie and the book, though, take some pretty big liberties in terms of facts. I know the book by Gray Smith is now very controversial amongst zodiologists because there's stuff people believe he made up completely in order to fit his preferred suspect rather than just treating the facts. I have no opinion personally on that. I can't really say what was Graysmith's intent, but I do see a connection between some stuff in that book and what we had on screen, especially with the way the Riddler was portrayed. Definitely, it's not just the Zodiac. However, like, I know some people say this isn't the Riddler; it's just the Zodiac in a green suit. Yeah, we've heard those.
Sure.
I think it's very.
That's another dumb hot take.
Yeah, it's very hyperbolic. It's the Zodiac was never politically motivated or anything like that. There's a bit of a blend of different type of crimes that happen in real life, as well as some stuff that he took from crime films and crime novels. So yeah, maybe I gave you a little bit too much for what your question was. I went beyond the movies, just like the influences, of course. But yeah, if I'm thinking about the stuff that isn't really Batman related, all of the films that you've mentioned, I did see, like Chinatown. There's definitely some things that feel reminiscent from it. But really, it's the Batman Catwoman relationship that felt very much like Clute. Even like the cinematography, like how the blacks are, the shades of black. I'm not talking like freaking American people, just to make sure, like.
No, we got
no, look,
we know what you mean. We know what you mean.
Yeah, I know, but look, as I said, English is my second language, so sometimes I may clown myself a little bit or say things that will come out completely wrong. So I just want to make sure that I'm understood clearly here. I'm talking about the color black, and yeah, how the scenes are lit. Yeah, it's very much Clute. Even like The Godfather, it's the same cinematographer, so maybe that's why I'm seeing a connection there. Yeah. I've got nothing to add.
Well, I mean, I haven't seen all of those, but I've seen some of them, and they definitely did. There are parts where I was like, okay, that's from that, or that's from this film, or that I can definitely see the influence there. But the way it's constructed and pieced together to fit into this just really new, it still feels fresh and new, right? It still feels like something we've never seen before in a lot of ways. And that's just, again, a testament to this guy and his love of the character. Now, remember we were all worried that the script was taking so long, and we're like,
I wasn't.
Why is this process being like drawn out? And we wanted a little bit more than we were getting. I think the end product should allay all those concerns now. Like, we understand now why he took his time and, he crafted this just tremendous film. So you brought up the Batwoman. I mean, sorry.
Yeah, Batwoman's great. Season 3. I read my reviews on Batwoman on film. I know you got Batwoman on the brain. I knew I'd get to you, Holzman. I knew it.
No, sorry. That was a slip. I meant to say
Freudian slip. You got Batwoman on the brain.
He brought up the Batman Catwoman relationship, which is very, of course, central to this movie. It's the first time I think we've ever seen it this intricate and this intimate. Obviously, the other films that Catwoman was in, it's there, but it's a little different. This one felt definitely deeper, in my estimation.
I think it's as deep as the one in Batman Returns. I think that Bruce and Selina relationship's really good. That Batman Catwoman relationship is very good. I did find it interesting. It seemed that because it's mostly Batman and not Bruce Wayne, right? She doesn't know about Bruce Wayne. I thought that this one was very interesting because at the end of the movie, he's looking back and you could tell he's catching some feelings.
Yeah.
You know, like
Yeah.
I find it interesting that he doesn't kiss her throughout the movie. She kisses him. But at the end, they made a point of showing that he looks in that rearview mirror, like he's looking for her and he's looking at her. So I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, and he kind of leans in right at the end when they're having the discussion.
And he stops himself, you know,
Yeah,
because you know that's who Bruce Wayne is. That's who Batman is.
Yeah, but their dynamic and their chemistry, I've heard people say it wasn't good. I'm like, what are you talking about? It was fantastic.
I don't know what they were watching.
Like, I'm like, where does that even come from? They were great. I mean, it's just. I often ask myself this question, like, what movie are we watching the same film? Because I didn't get any of that. Like, that's nothing. That was not an issue for me, even from the beginning. And I had issues the first time I saw it. But by the time I saw it last week, all of those were gone. So the Batman Catwoman relationship, Reno, what did you think of that dynamic in the film?
I think we've not had a Batman Catwoman relationship with that much chemistry since Adam West and Julie Newmar.
Even more so than Pfeiffer and Keaton.
Yes. 100%. And I like, that's just personal opinion. I think Bale and Hathaway, like their performances were good, but they didn't really have that much chemistry on screen. That's just my opinion.
Right.
Like, feel free to throw stones at me. But that's how I felt.
I'll throw pebbles, so we'll throw stones.
I mean, Pfeiffer and Keaton had chemistry, but with Kravitz and Pattinson, it was really raw.
Yeah. And Pfeiffer and Keaton had actual chemistry because they had dated, so they had that real life relationship kind of melded into that. But their storylines interconnect, and they're both very true to the characters that we've known for their existence, right? Like, Selina's still kind of on the edge. She's very much plays that role, and you know, Batman is Batman. He's the same guy, maybe a little bit more brutal in here, but he's still the same guy morally down to what he believes. And that relationship really drives the film for me.
She's a very important part to the movie.
Yeah.
She's very integral to the plot of the movie.
Yeah.
She's the second lead.
So I didn't get to talk. Right? Yeah, she is.
Yeah.
She is. So a couple characters, Pete, you mentioned Falcone, Turturro's Falcone.
Wow, that's a tongue twister.
You mentioned him, which I agree with you. Your assessment was that it was kind of the surprise. I wasn't expecting, but I agree with you. He was fantastic.
He's another one like Farrell, like wasn't in the movie a whole lot, but when he was, you felt it.
Yeah.
You know, and it was and him and Farrell delivered such vintage mafia portrayals. Like, I made one of those like fake little movie review memes, and I said like Farrell leans more towards Casino than comic book, and I stand by that. Like these guys are like straight out of like a David Chase mafia movie, right? Like it Francis Ford Coppola, you know, like the top
Scorsese,
mafia, Scorsese, like these guys who are just known for these great mafia portrayals and writings, and this Gotham City crime lord aspect of the movie really fits in tone with that, even more so than what Wilkinson and Roberts did in the trilogy.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Like getting an Italian too to play a mobster was kind of good. Kind of a little bit more authentic, right? Like add some authenticity. So Reno, what'd you think of Turturro's performance?
I thought he was fantastic. And as you said, having an Italian American play that part was breath of fresh air, much needed compared to...
No complaints here.
Yeah, I mean, look, Tom Wilkinson is a great actor. He gave a very good performance in Begins, but it's that thing, right? You're picking a Brit to play an Italian American, and I'm not saying it can't be done, but it really didn't feel as authentic as when you have John Turturro on screen.
Right.
You really can't understate that thing. You felt that he was very much more in his element.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And he's such a great character actor. Like I've said this before. He's the best thing in those Transformers movies. You know, he's hysterical on Monk. He has so much range where to see him deliver this like dark and evil character. Who is he responsible for the Wayne murders? Is he just playing Bruce Wayne? He's a master manipulator. He's, you know, he's messing around with all these girls in the club. Like you see these scenes and like this guy, he did such a great job of playing such a wonderful, like just mafioso character. It's so accurate to what these guys really are. I was like, wow, like, and we've seen mafia bosses in Batman movies. We mentioned the trilogy: Carl Grissom, Jack Napier. But I think Totoro might have been the best out of all of what we've seen in terms of like mafia guys in there. And I was like, wow! And that final scene with him and Catwoman fighting, or Selena, I should say, like, and he's got her with the pool cue, and I was like, man, he's really going to do this. Like, this guy's ruthless. This woman's 150 pounds. He's just going to strangle her.
I know.
You know, he did a great job. He just was pure evil. And when he's walking out of the club with Batman and he's just talking shit and he's like, you think you're going to intimidate me with that cape and that cowl? Like, nah, pal, not a big deal. You know, it was really like he was really just a monster.
Yeah, the performance, again, it was surprising. You're right. He's not in it a lot, but he slays every scene he's in. It's just such a really solid performance. And yes, I liked Tom Wilkinson, but obviously the authenticity that we get from having an Italian play a mobster, you know, it made it a little bit, gave it that extra kick to it for me.
But you can't deny how great Wilkinson is. You know, that's power you can't buy.
No,
you know, like that scene in Begins is epic.
He's good outside of the accent being a little bit much for me in that film, but it was fine. Like, it's just a little bit too much for me. Like, okay, we get it. You're trying to play this part. And it's a little strong, but he's fantastic in that movie as well. So one of the things that came out in this version of the character was that Falcone is Selena's father. So what did you feel about that element? Did you like it?
Yes, loved it. When she claws his face, I gave a fist. It was my only like real. In most of the movie, like there were 3 instances where I actually showed reaction to the movie. Like, there's one time I looked at Rick and I was like, "This is awesome," and the other time I looked at my brother and I was like, "This is awesome." And then she claws, and then Selena claws Falcone's face, and I gave a fist pump. I was like, "That's it. That's great." Like, I love that moment. So like, I was all for it. I would love to maybe a Catwoman When in Rome, like kind of, if that's what the Catwoman show would have been, I would have loved that. But it's not, like I said earlier, like you tell Reeves has done so much homework. Like, I would love to know what he read Batman wise, you know, aside from like Ego, Long Halloween. Obviously there's a lot of year one in there.
Yes.
But you're like, man, dude, like you are just pulling left and right. It's such a pleasure to watch winks and nods be done so well. Cause sometimes I think they're too overdone, or they try too hard to get them in there. And I don't think that's the case with this movie. I think they're all just perfectly placed.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely, no, go ahead, Reno. Go ahead.
What Pete just mentioned, I really enjoy how all these nods and winks, these Easter eggs, didn't call attention on themselves. Nowadays, most movies, they really try to spotlight these things to the point that it becomes distracting, as far as I'm concerned. It takes away from the storytelling, but here they actually use those references to flesh out the universe more properly.
Yeah, they definitely, I mean, I feel like the people who aren't readers can fit in and just fall in like it's brand new stuff for them. And then that guys like you who are much more avid readers will be like, "Oh yes, like that was great!" Like you said, you were getting excited and fist bumping, and that's the awesome thing about this movie. It just really has something for everyone in it, and you can be a complete novice and go in and absorb it. There are some things that maybe you'd be confused about, or they will add a little bit to it if you do know more of the history. But I don't think it's a prerequisite to know something about the characters or about any of the character stories. The last character I kind of want to focus on is Alfred. Andy Serkis plays Alfred in here again. We don't get a lot of him. He's very integral to the story as it goes on, but The weird dynamic that they built here, obviously, is he should have been a father figure, and he couldn't be for whatever reason. He couldn't be that for him, and he feel like he should have been that. And we get that touching scene after Alfred, of course, the bomb goes off in Wayne Manor, and
I thought they killed him.
Me too.
I
did.
No.
And we get that scene in the hospital after he finds out, like, oh, you lied to me, and then he goes through and he explains all this stuff about his father. That's the one scene in the film where I'm kind of like, that's a very quick shift for me. How Bruce was angry, and then it just very quickly goes away when he explains the story. That's if that had one.
I think you could see the trust he does have in Alfred. That's why he was so upset with why he thought he lied to him. You know, like they do have a relationship. It's probably not the strongest relationship that we've seen, and also like Alfred's not in the movie a whole lot either.
Yeah,
like, it may be the one knock any true Batman fan can have is, well, Alfred's not in it, and like you know, I know he at one point he's unconscious and in the hospital, but you know, I don't have a problem with it. Like again, like I got really very few. If I have a minor gripe, it's one of the smallest gripes, but.
Yeah, like that's the one thing I'll say that moment felt very rushed, but that's the only thing in the film that I felt that way about. Reno, I know you told me yesterday that, or a couple of days ago, that you didn't really care for Alfred, but again, you said the reason was because
he's
not really in it.
I didn't really care for that Alfred, but I believe it was on purpose, because through the whole movie you're seeing it through Bruce's eyes, and at that point he doesn't seem to care about Alfred that much. So from my personal reading, I was under the impression the audience is not supposed to care about him that much yet. Hopefully that will change with the movies, the sequels, or maybe if he appears in one of the spin-offs or whatever. I would have liked to get a little bit more from him. It would be one of my really minor nitpick about the film as well. Alfred, like I think more.
I think it goes to what you were saying, Reno, where just like, you know, we're not really supposed to care about Alfred in a sense, because Bruce Wayne doesn't care about anything but being Batman.
Yeah.
You know, like this Bruce Wayne is almost an afterthought. Like the only reason he goes to the mayor's funeral is to basically just like, do research, right? Like he it's not there because he wants Bruce Wayne to be seen. He's doing it because Batman needs to do some homework. So basically Bruce, and I think the new mayor was very integral in, pointing that out to Bruce at the funeral, like, hey, you could be doing a lot more for the city. You know, we need Bruce Wayne. And right. I think that's a very important part that will be explored in future movies when we get those. But I agree with you. Like, I don't think we were supposed to care because because Bruce Wayne doesn't care. All he cares about is putting on that cowl.
Yeah, that's a very fair assessment. You starts to shift a little bit when he knows that the bomb is there and he calls. You even hear his voice change.
Because he's talking as Bruce Wayne at that point.
Yeah, he's talking, right. So you hear that. That's the part where he's kind of shifting. He's like, oh, crap. Like, he's all I have. And he even says that at the hospital. He's like, there's no one else. It's just me. So, yeah, it starts to shift towards the end. But you're right. He's very much normally Alfred's very integral and very much like in part of in lockstep with Bruce, and in this he's kind of just there to guide him and push him in certain directions and pull him back to being Bruce Wayne every once in a while. So let's get I'm gonna clap, guys. We get a round of applause, right? But I'm not talking about the Batman, because today I'm excited to announce Manscaped launched their ultra premium collection. Believe it or not, it's for your not so private parts. I'm talking about a leveled up hygiene routine with your favorite manly scent. This is an all-in-one skin and hair care kit for the everyday man and covers you from head to toe, literally. Manscaped is trusted below the waist. Now trust them with the rest. Join the 4 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped by going to manscaped.com for 20% off and free shipping with our code Gotham. So Pete and I always talk about how Manscaped keeps our man parts nice and trim and clean. But now they actually have products for above the waist. They have a new deodorant that's coming out. They have a body moisturizer. There's a body wash, a 2-in-1 shampoo, and they also have lip balm. So they're while we like to take care of the guys down below.
So you're telling me that the rest of my body can be as soft as my balls? Like,
yes.
That's amazing.
Yes.
I'm ready
telling
for
you
this.
I'm ready for it too, man. And we will be getting product. They will be sending us. We haven't got to try these out yet, guys, but they're going to be sending it to us. So Pete and I will get to be a little bit more firsthand and tell you about it. So
I hope it's as good as that crop preserver because I love that. In fact, it's time for my daily routine on the show here. As you guys can see, I got a little dab of crop preserver on the palm of my hand. Reno can see it there. Let me just applicate that, and you guys can finish your conversation.
So Reno, what do you think? Manscaped, would you like to give this a try? Would you like to, have the shampoo and the body wash? If you don't have their products, man, you really should get them.
God, this stuff smells great.
The scent is fantastic. It is. And all of it's the same. Like, they don't change it for different body parts. It's one scent. You get it all over. It's a beautiful thing. So
I've got tender balls now because of Manscaped. Like they're tender.
How are your balls, Reno? Your balls okay?
I'm pretty sure when you use Manscaped, it doesn't look like a crime scene afterwards. Unlike if you're doing it with the Mac tree from Gillette or whatever, can be a little bit.
Yeah,
messy.
no, there's no nicks, no cuts, no blood spots. I don't need Batman to look for a bloody footprint in my bathroom after I've done manscaping. I'll tell you that much.
So guys, if you get this new collection, we recommend you using them in this order. You hop in the shower, do a little scrubbing with the body wash, lather up your hair with the 2-in-1 shampoo, dry off and spray on the hydrating body moisturizer, then put on the deodorant, and then put on the lip balm to protect those lips, because you never know who you're going to kiss during the day. It could be a lucky day for you guys. You get to kiss someone. You never want to have those chapped lips because, that's never a good thing. So definitely follow those directions and you'll be all good. So once again, get 20% off and free shipping with the code Gotham at manscaped.com. That's 20% off and free shipping with the code Gotham at manscaped.com. The power of attraction is now in a bottle thanks to Manscaped.
Go to hell, Cupid. We got Manscaped.
I feel like Oswald could use Manscaped. I don't know. Of all the characters in that movie, I feel like he's the one that could probably use it the most.
He probably needs it. Yeah, he doesn't look like a groomer to me.
I agree.
Maybe
he's a little sloppy.
Maybe the Riddler might use it as well. Maybe
I don't know if he can. I don't know if they're going to let him use the lawnmower 4.0 in Arkham.
Well, not in Arkham, but maybe prior to his arrest, maybe he had some cling wrap around his balls to avoid leaving some.
He
DNA.
could. I mean, for DNA reasons, obviously.
All right. So speaking of the Riddler being in Arkham, we get two pretty big scenes. The first one, of course, is him face off with him and Batman. When Batman finally figures out everything, and then he leaves one last riddle in the apartment about everything that's going on, and then he goes back and sees him, and the Riddler kind of reveals the plan, and then Batman kind of thinks he knows who he is for real, and then it turns out he doesn't know who he is, and he's kind of ambiguous, but we find out at that point that the Riddler, of course, has bombed all the seawalls, and that happens while he's there, and it leads to the very great third act, which is honestly one of the best third acts in a Batman movie that we've ever gotten.
Yeah.
In my opinion. And so we get that little scene there,
which I think is as good as the interrogation scene in Dark Knight. Like, I really do.
Not
I think it's up there.
for me.
You don't like that?
No, I do like it. It's very good, but it's not. That scene to me is one of my favorite scenes in any movie I've ever seen in my life. Like, that interrogation scene in The Dark Knight is fantastic. Just a masterclass of acting.
You look like a big Epilogue fan too. I know Reno is.
The Epilogue, yeah.
Yeah.
Reach around. Let's everyone go for a reach around. Let's...
With all those little implication that I might enjoy that scene, I think I should maybe lawyer it up and send a cease and desist to you guys.
So real quick, Rito, what did you think of the scene in Arkham between the Riddler and Batman?
I loved it. The performances were excellent. I really like when Paul, is it Dano or Dano? I don't know how he pronounces it.
I believe it's Dano.
Dano?
Yeah.
Because I've
PD, you want to call him
heard
PD?
it both ways. Anyway, I really enjoyed his performance. He had a very man-child quality to him, which I think is very appropriate for the Riddler. Uh, this little meltdown really made me laugh on purpose. I don't think it was unintentionally humor. I wouldn't say that it's as good as the interrogation scene with the Joker and the Dark Knight either. I agree with you, Herrick. I think it's one of the best scenes in cinema. It's right up there with the diner scene in Heat by Michael Mann. But it's certainly one of my favorite moments in the movie.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely agree with that. It's one of the best moments of the film. But Pete, what? I know you obviously you loved it. What about you? What for you made it stand out? Like, what's the thing that?
Well, it's just the transformation and basically how the Riddler snaps, how he thinks. It's such an interesting angle on how the Riddler thinks he's working with Batman the whole time, and how he thinks together in Arkham they can like watch their achievements and relish in that moment. Whereas Batman's just like, no, you're really insane. Like you belong here all by yourself. And then Riddler hears that and he snaps and he loses it. And you hear that what Reno said, that man shot, like that's a great way to explain. Like the Riddler feels like he just lost his best friend and he completely goes bonkers. And you see, like, you can kind of get a hint of that when he's making like his YouTube videos and stuff. His voice changes. He doesn't like when he wants to be terrifying, he can be, but when he's like talking to his audience, he's very soft. When he's talking to like the basically what would be the other Riddlers out there and basically the arena. So for me, it was watching Dano snap, whereas like Ledger is so calm throughout that whole scene in interrogation, from like where are they to like you think you have power and stuff like that, and it's just I'm like, and it's the opposite. Like Dano loses it, and
Yeah.
for me, I'm like, wow, I'm so captivated right now, and you're so disturbing. He is so disturbing throughout this whole movie, and that is like the pinnacle of it for me. And that's why I loved it. Just to see him finally snap really put me over the edge of that scene.
It's the
which
moment
is kind of
when
true to the character.
Right?
Yeah, because he thinks he's got it all. You're like, I had it all figured out. This isn't how it, like, and just the way he uses his voice.
No.
Yeah. I'm like, wow. Like I was like, this guy is so insane.
Yeah,
so insane.
Right, and that's, to me, that's the scene that now we get him completely unmasked. First, the scene in the diner where they arrest him, and then that scene there, you get to see him fully, really, for the first time, facial expressions and all, which is where you really like, okay, this is how, like you said, like now you see how just crazy he really is and how he just snaps. It's an excellent scene. It is one of the best scenes in the film. And then we get another scene in Arkham with the surprise cameo guest that wasn't really a surprise anymore because people pretty much knew it. But of course, I'm talking about Barry Keoghan's Joker, who I guess, he kind of let the cat out the bag and everyone knew he was in it. I joked about it and I thought people knew, but turned out I was right. So
that's the thing that's been spoiled on the internet for a very long time.
Yeah, we finally got confirmation of it.
Leia's here.
Leia's here, guys. You hear her in the background. Leia is snoring away. So what did Reno? You're obviously, we all know you're a big fan of the Joker. So what did you think of that scene right there?
Gotta be honest, it's my least favorite scene of the movie. I thought it was a little bit unnecessary. I like it for one specific reason. Even though like the interaction is just between the Riddler and the Joker, that makes it the first time that we have a Batman movie that features the core four villains since 1966. So, yeah, that's something I was really happy to get. I would have loved to see the villains in the same movie, either in a Burton film or I think Schumacher was planning to do that with Batman Unchained. And it's something that I also wanted out of the Christopher Nolan movie. So, as I've said, even though he only has like a quick little scene with the Riddler and he doesn't meet like Catwoman or Oz, the fact that all of them are present in the movie, I wouldn't cut it just for that. But besides it, I mean, it's not really something that's necessary to the film. It's a nice little thing. Just I wasn't over the moon
Well,
about it.
we know apparently there's more. They shot more with him, so I guess we'll see that on the Blu-ray
Damn
release
it,
or
WB!
whatever.
You're always interfering.
But Pete, do you want to see another Joker, like a fully fledged Joker in this world, or would you be happy with him just kind of being in the periphery?
The thing about that scene for me is, like, I was so hyped on seeing this movie. Like, this scene didn't I was like, oh man, this is amazing. Like, it was just for me, it was just kind of like another scene. But I appreciated what the Joker said. If that is the Joker, Gotham loves a comeback, and it's like, okay, cool. So like, if we can get, like, I don't know, I'd be down for a Riddler Joker team up in a future film like that. Like Reno said, having the big four villains, in this movie is a big deal, and kind of having that team up would be something special in my opinion. But yeah, I mean, I would be cool if he teased him until the third movie. I'd be cool if he did it in the sequel. I don't know, like, someone's got to break the Joker out of Arkham. Maybe there's a Harley Quinn out there. I have no idea, but whatever Matt Reeves has in store for us, I'm down. It's a cute little thing, but everyone tells me, like, I don't know too much about this Barry Kyogen guy. Everyone tells me you don't cast this guy in just a cameo role for nothing. So if he's going to play a larger part, so be it. I'll be here for it. But at this point, I'm living in the moment. I'm loving the movie. If Matt Reeves does the Joker in some aspect in the future, great. If he doesn't, that's okay. I can't. It'd be hard for me to call this Batman definitive without a Joker. So there's that. It's kind of like how I'm like, I don't know. It's kind of like how I can't call Tom Holland's Spider-Man definitive while fighting Tobey Maguire's Green Goblin. So it's a little weird, in my opinion. So there's that. But I'm down for it. But again, it's up to the director, whatever the story he wants to tell. Like, I would never have told a Riddler story like this, but you know what? I'm glad I got it now. So I'm all for whatever Matt Reeves has in store.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same space. I don't feel like we need a Joker here. It's fine if he's around, like I said, if he's kind of in the periphery or kind of pulling strings or doing something like that. I could be okay with that. Or I've heard they might use him as a Hannibal Lecter type character, something like that, maybe. Where he's used as kind of an informant, or just to help him get Batman to get through cases. That might be a cool way to handle the character. I would like to see other villains this time. And I know you're right. It's hard to do Batman without having Joker be definitive anyway. But I'd like to see other villains brought into the world. I've mentioned Hugo Strange in the past. I think he'd be good in this. If we get a Robin, maybe they'll bring a Tony Zuko character in, another mobster.
That'd be great.
Right. Having something like that where you have it would obviously would fit in this world too, especially now there's a vacancy, and Oz clearly is going to be the guy going for that spot. But add another wrinkle to it by adding maybe Tony.
Maybe
Zuko
Hugo Strange runs Arkham.
Right, like something like that where you can just build out this world a little bit more. That's just my opinion. If we get Joker, I love Barry Keoghan as an actor, so I'd be perfectly fine if he's the guy and they continue going forward and they do that.
I dug him in Eternals.
Yeah, he was good in Eternals. He definitely was. So I'm definitely down for whatever they want to do. Like you said, Reeves gave us this great movie. So wherever he feels like he wants to go, I'm 100% there with it. We do know one place he's definitely going, and you brought this up before, Pete. We do know we are getting a Penguin series on HBO Max. So it's been ordered. It was Deadline, the article on Deadline. It has been ordered. So we are getting this story now. It's going to be awesome, I'm sure. As we know, like we said, we all thought Colin Farrell really stood out in this movie, so more of him is perfect. And I'm looking forward to this. So, Reno, how do you feel? I know you're probably looking forward. You said before you're looking forward to Oswald. What do you want to see, though? What do you want to see with where he goes? Do you have any kind of idea of where you'd like to see, what story you'd like to see them tell?
Just something that is very mob driven. Set in Gotham. There's nothing really that I want to see, like, in particular. I trust Reeves and his team. Just show me character growth with the character. Character growth with the character, of course. Just show me character growth with the Penguin. his rise in the mafia of Gotham City, maybe some sort of gang war. I don't know. It's gonna take place after the Batman or before. I'm not sure.
After.
It's after, okay? Because I mean, it could have been
After.
set earlier. I was thinking maybe we would see Colin Farrell as we kind of know him, and then he would either like slowly transgress into the look that they have established for the movie. Let's say it would have been a prequel. So if it takes place after, I want a good mob story. What I'm really not concerned about, but I really hope that they can match the production quality of that movie. Because a lot of time when you have a spin-off from a film, on the small screen, you can tell there's not the same budget involved, even with premium channels like HBO. And I hope it won't be the case. I really want it to look good on screen. I want Gotham to look the same, not like a knockoff from the one we saw on the big screen.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So
I
Pete,
would.
go
I'd
ahead.
like to see. I thought we would maybe see some sort of power struggle between Oswald and Falcone, but obviously that's not going to happen. Maybe something. Maybe Maroni gets out of prison. You know, Maroni was mentioned throughout this movie numerous times. We never
Mhm.
see him, but Maroni's kind of the reason for what goes on throughout the film. You know,
Yeah.
so maybe Maroni gets out, and Falcone's dead. So now Maroni wants to take back control of the family. Oswald doesn't want to give back control. So therefore, you have these two guys duking it out. I think that would be fun. But if it's just Oswald running amok in Gotham City, just taking what he can and whatever he wants, I'm all for that as well. And we'll see what happens. Everyone knows how much I love the Penguin. So I'm just the fact that the Penguin's getting a TV show is like, I'm like, man, what a time to be alive. I'm not going to
Right.
complain about the release date change if you're going to make me a Penguin show. So I got so
Yeah.
much on my plate right now. I can't complain about anything.
Yeah. We could get into all that, but we're not going to on this show. We could continue to talk about the Batman because there's stuff we haven't even touched on yet. It's a 3-hour film. I mean, there are parts of the story we didn't even get to, but we have to wrap up right now. We're going to shut this one down. So Pete, actually, no, we'll start with Reno. Reno,
Yes.
thanks for coming on, brother.
My pleasure.
And if people want to get in touch with you, can they?
Probably
Yes.
not.
Yeah, they can on either Instagram, Blade Runner _Reno, or on Facebook through the Straight Out of Gotham group. They can tag me or whatever. I'm very responsive. I'm no longer on Twitter. I've got nothing else
Yeah,
to
we
plug.
miss you there, man.
Yeah, but it's a social media platform that's, I mean, all of them have their level of toxicity, but that one really, it's a nightmare to be on at this point. So
We can, yes, we if we didn't, I often say if I wasn't doing this show and other things, I don't know if I'd be on Twitter. So I kind of agree with you when it comes to that regard. But again, thanks for coming on, man. We love having your insight. Pete, tell them where they can find you and everything you got going on, because it's a lot.
You can find me on social media. That's Twitter, Instagram, and Zack Snyder's favorite platform, Vero, at Pete Illustrated. You can follow podcast number 1, the podcast you're listening to right now, Straight to Gotham, at straight_O_G on both Instagram and Twitter. We have a Facebook group and a Facebook fan page. Consider following both and joining the group because there's a lot of great discourse there. You can follow podcast number 2, the Italian Spider-Man Coalition podcast. It's a podcast I co-host with Chicago's finest, Nico and Nick Caruso, the father and son dynamic we all love. That's at Italians for Spidey. You could follow my reviews of Detective Comics on BatmanOnFilm.com and Batwoman, by the way, everyone's favorite TV show on the CW. You can also check out my toy reviews on Batman on Film YouTube. You can check out my interviews with Tara Strong and Michael Uslan on Batman on Film YouTube. Check out at Team Yellow Oval, as we are very excited for the Yellow Oval's return in print, as well as in Andy Muccietti's most recently shifted the Flash movie, and as well as the Batgirl movie on HBO Max starring Leslie Grace. So that's really exciting. A lot of good stuff going there. Hit me up on Twitter. Let's have some fun. Let's have some good conversations about our favorite Caped Crusader.
Yeah, guys. So as Pete mentioned, there was some shifting of movies. We'll get into that probably on the next show. We'll talk about it a little bit more. But they're still coming. None of them were canceled. So that's
right. They're not canceled.
None of them were canceled. So they are coming. They're just going to be a little later.
But you can always buy some Kleenex.
As you guys know, you can find me on Twitter at Finale33, spell Finale33. Same on Instagram. Check me out over there. Pete went through all of the Facebook stuff, so I'm also there. You guys can find me also in the Batman on Film group. I'm in there as well. We talk about a lot of the same things, but different fans in some of the spaces, so it's a lot of fun to do. I keep mentioning this. It is coming again. My New York Knicks centered podcast called All Nicked Up. I will be dropping the first episode shortly. This season.
Oh, you've recorded?
Yeah, this season has played out the way I planned on it. So it's a lot easier for me it's a lot easier for us anyway to talk about all the problems when the team isn't playing well. So it's kind of working out well. And maybe next time we'll talk a little bit of baseball too, because the strike is over, or the lockout is over. It was a lockout.
It was not a strike.
Right. The lockout is over. I'm sorry. You corrected me. The lockout's over. So we'll get into that maybe on the next show. Cause as you know, Pete is a huge Yankees fan, and that's all the free agency is happening now. And we like to give you a little bit of everything on Straight Outta Gotham.
Fire Cashman.
Oh boy. See guys, it started already.
Okay.
So
I don't want Cashman fired.
Well, a lot of people do. So
on Twitter, there's a lot of crybabies.
Yes,
comic book Twitter, on film Twitter, and in sports Twitter.
Yes. So, all right, that's going to put a bow on this one. So for Reno and Pete Vera, I am Eric Holzman. You are listening to Straight Outta Gotham, and we will see you next time.
Booyah!